All right, so here we are, Bali Business Club, first one of 2025. I'm here with my usual sidekick, Omri Ben-Canaan.
Thanks, Gawain, and good to. This is our first podcast of 2025. We haven't shot in like a month or something.
Yeah, I've been away in Cape Town.
I've been away too. Everyone has been away. Happy New Year, everyone.
And today we're talking about specifically, well, I suppose we've spoken so much in the past about acquisition of property, buying a property, leases, long-term leases, lease extensions. Check all our other podcasts for that. So today what do you do when you got a property? How are you going to get yield off it, rental yield, long-term, short-term?
Yeah. So we need a jingle. So we stop now and we come back in 2 minutes.
We've forgotten how this all works.
Jingle.
Okay, so yeah, we're talking about leasing, long-term leasing, short-term leasing.
Let me give you guys a little bit of context. We started a villa management company about 2-3 months ago, and the first couple of months, I was back in, I think, middle of October or something. First couple of months, we only had a couple of villas in order to, put all the SOPs in place and everything. During that time, so we did that, okay. And during that time, I thought around early December, I thought, but what about the impact of rental prices on the yields that we get from short-term rental versus long-term rental? And so I took a Excel spreadsheet, and I put some numbers down.
It's always good to start with your numbers before launching the business.
Yeah, well, this time I kind of launched it before.
I think this is the first time.
Yeah, but for my defense, most of the agencies in Bali have done the same thing. Yeah, so I put some numbers down, and the results came as a surprise, as a shock to me. Yeah. So basically, what I did, and we're gonna show it to you in a minute. We did a couple of columns. I did a couple of columns: long-term rental, short-term rental, and for each we inputted different items such as expenses that you have when you do short-term and expenses that you have when you do long-term. Here, the point of view here is the villa owner or the property owner, whether it's a villa or loft, whatever. Yeah. What I was trying to get is how much money exactly do they get from short-term rental, and we know those numbers because we have the agency and everyone has. I mean, there's million data out there. So how much money you get from short-term rental and how much you get from long-term rental, which is something that I never put those numbers down, ever.
Yeah, it's kind of obvious, but once you actually put them down and look at them and analyze them, and not only revenues, the costs. Operating costs associated, which you'll get to, but yeah.
And okay, so for those that don't know Bali and don't live here, there is in the general knowledge, in people's mind, it's always better to do short-term rental. People think that before the general thinking on this was the consensus was that you break even, so you build a house. Or you buy a house, whatever, you break even in like 6 to 7 years, give or take, if you do short-term rental, okay? And if you do long-term rental, you add like 2, 3, 4 years to that number. So 9, 10 years in order to break even. What I did when I put those numbers into a spreadsheet is I was trying to find out whether the increase, well, I knew the answer a little bit before I did it, otherwise I wouldn't have done it. Whether the increase of long-term rental prices after the COVID ended had an impact on the bottom line. Okay? So basically, in order to understand what happened in Bali, we were here.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Bali.
Yeah, a little bit of history. Yeah. So COVID, prices were slashed. It was super cheap to get anything. There was no one. The demand was very, very low, so the offer was very, very low as well. I mean, the prices of the offer was very low. And then COVID ended, revenge traveling, and war in Russia. Okay, Russia, Ukraine. So what happened is both these factors had a huge impact on prices in Bali, whether it's rental prices or restaurants or anything, basically. That we
It still has not really come back down. It's still going, but that was a huge spike straight after.
That was a bubble.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I've seen guys buying buying houses without seeing them for like half a mil. You know, like crazy prices. Yeah. My friend sold a house for $840,000 in Perenan. And the real price of that house, honestly, wasn't $840,000. It's not worth it, you know.
There's also a lack of stock at that time. Like there wasn't much on the market, not much development.
And there was a need for Russian men, especially, to stay out of the country. Yeah.
And Ukrainian. I remember both.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Ukraine was, Let's dive into it, okay? So you're going to see on your screen a nice chart here. I mean, table with a bunch of photos. So just to make everyone understand. So we run a few assumptions. We run a few scenarios. And whether for 2-bedroom villa, 3-bedroom villa, 4-bedroom villa, we always come to the same number, more give or take 10, 20%. So here, we're not going to see all the scenarios. We're just going to see one, which is a very common scenario. It's a 2-bedroom villa. So you can see some photos on the left side of the screen. This happened to be a villa that we built recently, and we sold to a Frenchman. And the villa is on the market for short-term rental. So you see in this column, short-term rental here and long-term rental here. So what we did is basically that villa would go for around 2.5 million rupiah per night, okay? If it was rented daily. The equivalent, if that villa was rented yearly, it would be around between 400 and 450 million, depending on the location, okay? So at 2,500,000 daily, that would be an equivalent to 63,750,000 at an 85% occupancy. And that's your number here, okay? Then you take this number. So basically, that's the money in. That's the money in, okay? You remove from that all the expenses. So maid, around 3.5, pool guy, 700, gardener, 700, water, electricity, 3 million, laundry and different products, 1 million, internet, trash, bandra, 750, house maintenance, so non-structural things, so like bulbs, broken bulbs, small things to repair.
Painting and mold management, which is a big issue.
Yeah, exactly. So around 700,000. So all these numbers are debatable. It depends what is the location, depends on the staff, it depends on many factors, but this is like an average, yeah. It won't. I mean, the changes here won't change much the outcome. And then 15% for the OTAs, whether Booking.com, Airbnb, and so on and so forth. Some will argue that Airbnb is cheaper. It is for the villa owner, but at the end of the day, if the price is impacted by the commission, then at the end of the day, it becomes the same for the villa owner. So 15% average, and then management company. We put 20%. Some management company are 15%. Some are 20. Some are 25. Some are 30%. So it's an average, yeah. And then taxes 10%. So what do you get out of a 63 million rupiah monthly revenue? You end up getting, you deduct the 39 million rupiah expenses, you end up getting 24 million rupiah 712 in your pocket. That's the net profit for the villa owner, which is around 38% from the cash in. Again, this is debatable. It can be 40%, it can be 41%, it can be 37%, depends what you spend here. Okay, so that's short term, all right? Any questions so far?
No, I just think a comment around occupancy. The 85% is definitely on the top end. I think the highest we've ever had is like, and all these numbers are also up for, like, you can check your sources on these percentages and numbers, but they do vary across sources.
Absolutely.
It's a bit of a disclaimer on that. But I think 85 is top end. I think average 65, 70 from what I see.
The average in Bali for hotels is, I think 2024 was 60%. That's hotels, yeah, it's not villas. But I mean, if you have a villa, I mean, if your villa is correctly located and it's nice inside, you should hit that mark.
Yeah.
If you're not too bad in marketing and if you're using a good agent. I mean, worst case, you get 75. Average across the year. So it's
more
not.
or less.
It's not. I mean, some villas have more than that. We took 85% because we had to put a number here, and it kind of like makes sense. And I think it's not conservative, but it also help make us our case. Yeah.
Yeah, and let's just put that in dollar terms. So it's about $160, and then $4,100.
So we could have put a dollar color actually. It's a good idea. But $2,500,000 is about $160, and 63 million here would be around $4,000. Yeah. So the 24 million here would be 1,700, give or take. Yeah, something like that.
Not bad, no.
Yeah, let's go to long term. So long term, the exact same villa would go for 450 million. The assumption is that we're only doing 90% occupancy. I mean, if it's rented yearly, it should be 100%. But let's assume that it takes. The guest leaves and you have to find another guest, and there's some small renovations or. Let's assume you rent it like around 11 months per year, yeah?
Yeah.
All of these expenses you don't have because this is all the guests paying for it, okay? When you rent your villa, I mean, there are different scenarios. Some people rent a villa with the staff, okay? But we took the assumption for this price, the staff wouldn't be included. Nothing is included. The villa I'm renting, for instance, I'm renting a villa. There's nothing included. I pay for the maid, I pay for the internet, I pay for the electricity, I pay for the gardener, the pool guy. I pay for, basically, I even pay for renovation. Even structural stuff I pay because I don't want the headache of asking the villa owner.
Generally, the rule of thumb is the longer the lease, the less you'll pay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and then below OTAs, obviously there's no OTAs because it's a long-term rental. And management company, there's no management company because long-term management companies in Bali don't exist or very, very rare that act the same way as they act for short-term rental.
Yeah, I mean, and that's also a topic of discussion is just how underserviced that sector is,
Yeah.
And there's a lot more people looking for longer term in Bali. Short-term letting is, it's definitely a saturated, getting more expensive on all fronts. So, yeah.
And there's
an interesting shift.
There's an oversupply at the moment.
An oversupply.
Because everyone started building villas when post-COVID, and now there's just too many villas. Yeah. Anyway, so let's finish on those numbers. So you do pay your 10% tax. So those taxes are based on that number here, and so those are the only expenses you actually have for that in that example. So your revenue is 33 million minus the 3.3 million tax, 10% tax. You have 30 million net profit in your pocket versus 24 million. So here we have an example where we see clearly that long-term rental today is much more profitable than short-term rental, as opposed to what everyone thinks. Me the first 2 months ago. If you take that villa and you go back in time, maybe 3 years or 4 years, let's say pre-COVID, because COVID was different, yeah, that villa would be 250 million and not 450 million. And in the 250 million scenario, short-term rental is much better than long-term rental. But today, the market has changed. There has been a huge shift in how investors approach the market. They want the money fast. They don't want to back down. They don't want to go back on the old prices. So everything is very expensive. And as such, if you rent and there's a huge demand. So there's still
I think
demand.
this is more of a demand thing than actually, and also just inheriting just the way things are done in Bali. It's just always been so positioned for short-term letting. But this shows you we need to relook at things,
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the demand is now shifted.
And it's not only a money thing. I mean, if you do long term, wear and tear on your villa is much less because there's nothing worse than guests that hear that like holiday rental because they don't care. They really don't care. People that stay 1 year in the villa and they will take care of your villa. You don't have to worry about it, because they actually live there. So they even improve the place in many instances. Yeah, people that are here for 1 week, they just put the AC like crazy 24/7. They really don't care. They break things. They party.
And you got to take into account the stress of running a business like this. Battling bad reviews,
it's horrible.
Sleepless nights.
Yeah.
Unless you have like 100 villas. But even then, this kind of business it's a management-intensive business.
But I mean, difficult. That's on a villa management standpoint. But even for a villa owner,
they still deal with it for sure. They do.
Absolutely.
They know what's going on.
Absolutely. I mean, the 2 villas that we were renting out since when we started the company. I mean, the villa owners who are friends of mine were calling me every hour of the day to ask me about results and where are we going, what are we doing, and this and that and small details. So that's something to think about as well. This is a little bit of a
shock.
A little bit of a shock, yeah. It was a shock for me. I was like, wow. Yeah. So I had to do this like 10 times. I ran those numbers by villa management companies like competitors of us. I showed them those numbers. I took 2 or 3 of them. I won't say names, but 2 famous ones. 2 or 3 of them. I showed them those numbers, and they were like, "Oh wow, yeah, that's surprising as well." So here we go.
And also, the one affects the other one. Like the more stock is in short term, the higher the value, the long term rent. The prices shift up because there's less stock available.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So. Interesting scenario.
Your question is like, what are you going to do with your villa management company? So a bit of a heads up, and this is a bit of a spoiler. We are turning our short-term rental villa management company into a long-term rental villa management company.
So how will that work? Because I know at the moment people just go on Facebook Marketplace, list their villa.
The problem with marketplace, the problem with that is that if you're an investor and you've bought or you leased, you have your own the rights on a villa in Bali, and you live abroad, there's no way you can put it on a marketplace and manage it yourself, because your tenants, every time there's a bulb breaking, are going to call you, and you're back in the States or Australia or Cape Town or France or wherever. What are you going to do with your bulb? So you need a villa manager. But if you have like one dude managing your villa, then you still have to work. Yeah. So, but the model we are doing now, that we are building now, launching soon, is a company where it's exactly the same service as a short-term villa management company, except it's long-term. So we'll take a lower commission, probably around 15%, but we'll manage everything. So we'll go and check on the villa, we'll change the bulbs, we'll help also probably give some mini concierge services to the guests. Yeah. So if you're an expat in Bali, you're newly arrived in Bali, for instance, you're renting your villa for 1 year or 2 years, and you need help with, visas or car rental, whatever, is something that we can provide as well. The villa owners, the property owners, don't have to worry about a thing. They don't have to call Kadek or Putu or whoever or handle salaries of the staff, and then the staff is leaving for whatever reason, and you have to find a new maid or a new whatever, which is a crazy headache. Yeah.
So it's not long-term rental. You're looking probably 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, a year, that kind of.
More interested in long-term rental, to be honest.
Like long.
Like 1 to 3 years. Like yearly. 6 months to 1 year. Okay. Because the problem, if you do like 1 month, 2 months, then you always have gaps in between, and it's always a headache to find a new tenant or whatever. And the extra money you make from the actual mid-short-term rental is not covering the gaps.
Yeah.
Or, I never made a calculation, but it's probably not covering enough the gap. So we go for long term. We want tenants that are solid. We'll vet them as well, make sure they are not, whoever. We won't take any villa as well. We won't take only villa that we think are not gonna break down at the next. It's
So you'll vet both sides, pretty much. like any long-term letting agency all around the world, just there seems to be a huge lack in Bali.
There's none. We realized today with those numbers that it was true up until now, and now it's a mistake. I don't see any reason to go short term over long term. Not one reason, you know.
No, I don't think there is. Yeah.
There we go.
There we go.
Yeah.
So, any more information, or you want to ask some more questions? Comment below. Anything else? Any other?
Subscribe. Send us messages if you wanna reach out or discuss anything. We're happy to. We always reply to the comments, always, except when it doesn't make sense or
hate
haters. We don't reply to haters because it doesn't make sense to reply.
Yeah, but also any ideas for other podcasts, or you want to hear about anything, or something you would love to know, don't know. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Easy.
See you next time.
Yeah. Take it easy. Cheers, guys.
Ciao. Bye.